It was the day before Christmas in 2009, and we were all on the road leaving my dad's quiet ranch in Tequesquite, Mexico, and headed to Mexico City. We had been on vacation in Mexico for about a week already, and planned on staying for another week or so. Me, 14 female, my mom, my dad, my sister Beth, 16 female, and my cousin Jazz, 16 female. We're all headed to my aunt's house to visit for 3 days and to drop off some things we brought for them from the US. Our first day there went great. We had fun talking, eating, and playing games. I had always been an animal lover, so when I saw they had a little chihuahua, I instantly wanted to play with him. But when I got close, it would run to the top of the stairs and just stand there, looking at me. So I figured it was a weirdo and left it alone. When night came, we all went to bed. Our aunt put the dog out on the roof patio, like she apparently did every night, and my mom, dad, and me went upstairs to the guest room. Beth and Jazz were downstairs on the living room couch. This part of the story is told from my sister's perspective, as I was not there. Because she couldn't sleep, my sister stayed up playing on her Nintendo DS. Around late 3 o'clock, there was a scraping sound coming from across the room at the dining table. She looked over and watched it for a while, when something happened that made her want to shit her pants. One of the dining chairs pulled away from the table so far it was about 3 feet away. Then she heard the sound of someone going through the pots and pans in the kitchen. And because the kitchen was around the corner, she couldn't see what was going on. Needless to say, she didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, she told us what happened, and of course, my parents blew it off, like all parents do. But Jazz and I believed her. Me and my sister had been through enough for me to know she was being serious. So that night, my sister and Jazz squeezed themselves into the small guest room with us. I was on the small couch in the room, my parents were on the bed, and laying on the floor smashed like a couple of sardines was Beth and Jazz. That night, at 3-ish in the morning of course, I had to pee. Scared from the story my sister told, I didn't want to go alone. I begged them to come with me, so the 3 of us, Beth, Jazz, and me, walked down the dark hall to the bathroom. We took turns using the toilet while the other 2 looked at the door praying not to see someone walk by or something. When we were done, we opened the door to go back to the room when we saw him. That weird little dog was standing in the hallway watching us. I don't know how long we stood there, but eventually it walked away, going around the corner to the stairs and never breaking eye contact with us. The second we couldn't see it anymore, we ran. Beth and Jazz threw themselves under the blankets, while I hurried to close the door, but not before making eye contact with small dogs standing at the top of the stairs. The next day, me, Beth, and Jazz were practically crying, begging my dad to take us back to the ranch. But he was never the type to believe in ghosts, aliens, or anything supernatural really, so of course he just laughed and said no. In fact, he decided to stay a few days more. And when we asked our aunt about the dog, she assured us she had locked it out on the roof patio like usual. For days, we would hear things outside our room. The sound of little kids running down the hall. Things that sounded like bowling balls getting pushed down the stairs. And if I dared to peek outside the room, that dog at the top of the stairs watching us. Finally, the day came when we had one more night, just one more night to endure before we would finally leave. But of course, it turned out to be the most traumatic. In the middle of the night, while the 3 of us sat up listening to the sounds of kids running and bowling balls getting pushed down the stairs, it suddenly stopped. We watched as something big stood right outside our bedroom door, and slowly, so slowly, the doorknob started to turn. Beth and Jazz hugged each other, shutting their eyes tight, and through tears started to pray. I was frozen, unable to look away as whatever was on the other side was about to come in. Finally, the doorknob was turned all the way. Beth and Jazz were practically screaming their prayer as they sobbed, and I felt like I was about to throw up, when suddenly my mom sat up and yelled, "Would you all just shut up?" She then laid back down and went back to sleep. All was quiet. Even the doorknob had snapped back into place, and whatever was on the other side of the door was gone. The 3 of us looked at each other, saying nothing, and for the rest of the night, nothing happened. The next morning, we all but flew down the stairs and put our bags in the car. My parents said their goodbyes and got ready to hit the road. I sat in the car waiting to leave. I wasn't about to go back in there. Looking at the house, I could see the dog, standing up there on the patio looking down at the car I was sitting in. I never wanted to kick a dog so bad in my whole life. A few minutes later, Beth and Jazz came running out with some news. After telling our aunt about the nights we had, she just laughed and said, "Oh, I forgot to tell you. Your late grandfather died on that couch you slept on your first night here. He's not really friendly to people sitting on his couch, but we see and hear him around the house almost every night. Nothing to be scared of." I didn't even know how to process that information. And how do you forget to tell your guests about the ghost in your house that's possessive of a specific couch in your home? Not to mention, according to my dad, he later found out that house was built on top of several graves. But he still thinks it's just a coincidence. It has been 13 years so far, and this is still the worst paranormal experience I've ever had. But sadly, it wasn't for my sister. So this story has been told to me by my mom a few times, and every single time I still get that creepy, eerie feeling that someone is watching me. My mom is from a small town in Mexico located in Zacatecas. When she was around 14, she had the habit of waking her mom up to go to the restroom, since it was an older home and the restroom was located outside. My mom tells me that it was around 3 a.m. when she woke up and felt that need to use the restroom urgently. So she began calling out for her mom. After a while of her mom not responding, she began getting agitated and started screaming. At this point, my mom turns around, and at the foot of her bed, she sees her mom standing there. She was wearing a white robe, but had a very bleak expression on her face, and both of her arms were extended. My mom said that she suddenly felt extremely cold and a huge sense of dread. She had never seen her mom wear a white robe. That's when she looked down and saw that her mom's feet weren't touching the floor. At that moment, she screamed and quickly threw the covers over her head. Her mom, wearing something completely different, runs in to find my mom shaking in her bed. Nobody believed my mom. Everyone told her it was a dream, until a few days later, there was a power outage. During this, my mom and a few of her siblings with her parents all decided to sleep in the living room. At around the same time at 3 a.m., they heard the undeniable wails of La Llorona down their street. None of them slept that night. This is a story my grandfather once told me. A night he said he'd never forget for the rest of his life. He had gone out drinking with some of his friends. It was a typical night, loud, fun, a little reckless, like they used to be in those days. The night got away from them, and before they knew it, it was the early hours of the morning. They didn't have a ride home, so they decided to walk, cutting through a quiet area near the train tracks. It was dark, and the only sound was their footsteps on the gravel. As they were walking, they saw something, or rather, someone ahead. There was a woman, standing alone, completely still. She was wearing a long white dress, her black hair flowing down her back. One of his friends got nervous and told the others that they should say something to her out of respect. You know, just a polite good evening. He felt like not speaking to her would bring bad luck. So my grandfather agreed. He walked a little closer and said, "Good evening, ma'am. May I accompany you?" The woman turned to face him, but instead of a human face, she had the head of a horse, eyes wide, long face, snorting like it was alive. Everyone screamed. They turned and ran as fast as they could. My grandfather said the fear was so real, it instantly sobered them up. All the alcohol, the laughs, the courage, gone. He still remembers how cold the air felt around her, how her hair moved as if it had its own life, and how that face still haunts him to this day. Have a paranormal experience of your own? Share it with us at officialphantom.mic@gmail.com. Whether in text or voice recording, we want to hear your story. Thank you for tuning in to Phantom Mic, and remember, if you still feel alone, you weren't listening closely enough.